We're live.
We're live, pal.
Welcome.
Welcome to ARMBAR, the Valley's only home for pro wrestling and MMA radio talk. Of course, once again, we're live, but we're not near one another like we would be, of course, in our regular studio environment. But we are coming to you live from our respective places of living. Of course, myself here in McAllen, the rockstar Jay Ochoa. Also in McAllen, Mike Dubbiz, according to his spelling. And live from Edinburgh, Jaime E.
That's terrible.
7 stars. What's up?
What's up?
Stars. But yeah, just what a weekend, of course, we had. I mean, what an event All Out was last night. And, of course, more to come from not only just AEW, but also just a couple of weeks, the return of a couple of big hot brands. You know, Ring of Honor finally back on well, I guess you could say regular television when it comes to original wrestling. And the same with NXT UK, which I'm sure, Mike, you're going to be excited about.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing Nigel McGuinness's voice again, man. I mean, I like Wade Barrett, don't get me wrong, but I mean, like, it's like we got Mike H in the house. What's up, Mike? How's it going?
And then, of course, also for New Japan Pro Wrestling, we are just a couple of weeks away from the biggest tournament in all of New Japan, of course. I, for myself, can tell you, having been to one of these events, it's always a potential match of the year or an event of the year. And I'm talking about the G1 Climax 2020. The only downside is that, of course, most of the roster won't be able to be there for New Japan this year because of the travel restrictions due to the pandemic. But whoever they put in this year's G1, I'm sure it's still going to be an awesome road to January 4th at Wrestle Kingdom. But let's go ahead and start out with this past week's NXT. Your thoughts on the main event to crown a new NXT champion, which was, of course, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, and Finn Balor. Your thoughts on the match and what took place in the last final seconds of the match, which will ultimately lead us to this coming Tuesday's main event.
Mike, you want to go first?
You're talking about NXT's main event, right? Sorry, I'm like messing with banners.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, for the most part, you know, it was an hour-long fatal four-way Iron Man match. But I thought this one had a little bit of a twist, right? Because I mean, it was more of a like whoever has the most pinfalls at the end of the hour, right? So I thought it was a very good match. I mean, I think the ending kind of PO'd a lot of people though, because I mean, definitely people want to see a winner. We don't want to see false finishes at the end of like a really good match. You know what I mean? Although I don't know if you would consider it a false finish or not, right? But of course you have the top two guys, or at least the top two guys that they thought that should be competing for the championship right now, which again is Adam Cole versus Finn Balor, right? Which I thought I was kind of shooting for Finn Balor on this one. You know what I mean? Just because like he's been back at NXT for a while, and I just really feel like he's been one of those guys that's been kind of trying to build up the current talent that they've had there. Just nothing wrong with that, right? But I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like he's still a top tier guy, and you know he should still be on other shows that Jay might not want to watch anymore, right? AKA Raw, right? But I mean, like, no, like I thought it was a good match, and I think Adam Cole's still, you know, top tier as far as like being the guy. I'm honestly surprised that he didn't get his call up. I'm surprised Keith Lee got his call up first before Adam Cole did. So I don't know what's going on there. I mean, obviously NXT is, if you think about it, is a main brand show now, right? It's, you know, it's still technically number 3, and it might always be number 3 in a lot of people's eyes. But at the same time, you know, I mean, it's gotten a lot better. The wrestling is always going to be better than Raw and SmackDown. Like in my opinion, I'm sure all of you guys agree, right? And it's just got more of an edge to it than you would see on Raw and SmackDown also. I think before, like, you know, 5 years ago, SmackDown was the show to watch if you wanted to watch wrestling now. And now I feel like it's NXT, right? So yeah, great main event, though. I mean, again, you know, kudos to all the guys that have competed in that match. They were all former NXT champions, which I thought was pretty legit. You know, I was like, oh, man, all these guys are all former NXT champions. I was kind of wanting Ciampa to win the match also just because, like, he never lost the title, right? You know, when he had to drop the title due to injuries. So I kind of felt like, oh, maybe they're going to pull like a Roman Reigns deal, like where he just comes back, you know, again. But he's already been back a while, right? So, but anyway, I mean, I'll give that to you, Jaime, I guess.
For the Roman Reigns situation, we are going to go ahead and touch base about that one. I mean, I thought it was a really good back and forth match. I mean, you have four guys that have staked their claim in the past as NXT champions. You know, and an hour long. I wish they would have given us more. I thought, the draw, they could have at least tried to separate it and do at least a sudden death. But I mean, that's what they're gonna go for on this week's episode on this Tuesday. I mean, I think Balor should come out as NXT champion as well, because I mean, you have Adam Cole, who's pretty much done it all. He's already won all three titles on NXT. He was first the NXT Tag Team Champion, then he won the North American Champion that same night. That they won the Dusty Cup, and then a couple years later, he's already NXT champion. He's the longest reigning NXT champion. So I wouldn't see it.
That originally was established
by Finn Balor. Yeah. So I mean, I think that Balor should be able to take it. Balor, before this whole pandemic, he was due for an NXT UK Championship shot, but because of travel restrictions, he wasn't able to go to the UK to challenge for said championship. So I think this would be a very best like kind of like a second prize type of deal for him, because I mean he's been having a good showing since he showed up on the brand. He's had very good matches against Gargano. He's had good matches against Priest. He's had good match against Jimmy Thatcher. So I think he should be the cornerstone right now for NXT while they're prepping up the Undisputed Era to either move on to Raw or SmackDown, if it were to ever be the case.
I mean, nonetheless, this Tuesday's main event with the Prince, as well as the leader of the Undisputed Era, I'm sure it's going to be another potential match of the year candidate. They wrestled once before for the NXT Championship. That, of course, was won by Adam Cole thanks to a returning Johnny Gargano. I believe it was late last year, early this year when the match did happen on NXT television. And now this time for it to be for the NXT Championship, it's I'm sure going to be another match of the year contender, just like I thought the Fatal 4-Way was. And ultimately, we're guaranteed to have a new two-time NXT champion. It's either going to be the Prince reclaiming his throne, or it's going to be the leader of the Undisputed Era once again having yet that era reignited this coming Tuesday night. And also, of course, there's been a lot of rumblings. I wanted to get y'all's personal opinion on NXT possibly moving from Wednesday nights, the home that they've had since January. February of 2000. I was right. I'm sorry, January 2015, when they moved to Wednesday nights on the WWE Network, when they were originally on Thursdays, if you remember, at the launch of the WWE Network. About them going over possibly to Tuesday nights or any other night, as opposed to the current night they have now, where right now they're going head-to-head with AEW. Do you feel it's best to, at this point in time, instead of dividing the wrestling fans, have NXT on one show, on one night, AEW still remain on Wednesdays, or do you feel that competition kind of helps bring out the best in both brands?
I mean, I think that I wouldn't really care too much if they did move NXT to Wednesday or Tuesday night, just because I feel like they would do a lot better on Tuesdays than Wednesdays. Because if you think about it, they're losing ratings being on the same night as another show that other people want to watch, right? So, and not to discredit AEW, I think AEW's significantly done a lot better on Wednesday nights, but both shows have been pretty even for the most part for the past, however long they've been debuting since they've been on, right? But at the same time, it's like, well, again, I would look at it in that aspect where, of course, NXT I think would do a lot better because it's following up on Monday night, right? And I really miss seeing a show on Tuesday just because, I don't know, I was just so used to having Monday Night Raw and then SmackDown on Tuesday directly after, and that was really chill, you know what I mean? Or that was really cool cool to have that. But at the same time, you know, I mean, not ever since they moved SmackDown back to Fridays, it's just like there's such a long gap. You know what I mean? But having it Monday, Wednesday, Friday makes it a little better. But at the same time, again, I'm going to kind of stick with, you know, because AEW is on Wednesday. A lot of the times, you know, whoever is watching has to choose. Not everyone has DVR, right? So like me, I don't have DVR. So if I'm home and I'm watching, I'm gonna watch one show or I'm gonna watch the other. And to be honest, when I was a kid, I did not mind flipping back and forth between WCW and Monday Night Raw. But eventually, I ended up staying with one show, and I think that's what it's going to be like for a lot of people as well. Where eventually, you're just going to stick to one show, whichever one you're more invested in the storylines. And right now, for me, I have not. I've been telling Jay this a lot. I have been not have been keeping up with NXT as much as I did when it was on the network. And the reason why I kept up with it more when it was on the network is because it was on demand all the time. So even if I was working that day, I was still able to go home that night and still watch the same episode of NXT, which I can't do that anymore because they won't air it until like the following day or even 2 days later on the network. You know what I mean? So, and again, unless you guys have like Hulu, which, you know, again, I have Hulu, but again, it's not always an option for some people because there's just so many streaming services out there now that it's like you kind of have to take your pick. And for me, since, you know, I don't have DVR and you can't get AEW on Hulu, I'm going to watch AEW over NXT. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if you do have if you're able to download the TNT app, the way that I do it is, you know, at the same time, obviously, NXT and AEW show, you know, they're on at the same time. What I do is I wait until 10 p.m., which, I mean, apparently that's the time that they showed at on the East Coast at around like 8 o'clock. So I just wait until 10. I just watch until midnight when it's over. So I mean, that's what I do usually on Wednesdays. I watch NXT first, you know, then take like an hour break from whatever, and then move on and watch NXT, or not NXT, AEW.
Yeah.
But I mean, if AEW were to go ahead and move on to Tuesday nights, I mean, they would. Well, I mean, I can't say they'd have direct competition because Jade would know who I'd be bashing at right now. And that smirk on your face, you know who it is. They wouldn't be able to. Okay, Impact wouldn't be able to compete with NXT because obviously, you know, they're different companies. You know, and yes, you know, Impact has had its fair share of good matches or whatnot, or good shows. Because both of you guys were knocking on me this past weekend for trying to watch Impact.
Not even. I ain't knocking.
Jay, I'm kidding.
Not me.
So to me, like I find it, you know, if NXT were to go to Tuesday nights, I mean, it really wouldn't matter. Even if it were to move on to Thursday nights, I would still watch it.
Yeah, to me, like I would watch Impact now just because they got a lot of WWE talent. They kind of poured over when all of those layoffs happened. You know what I mean? So these are guys that I wanted to see be successful in WWE, and it's just like, okay, like now, like give them to another promotion. Let's see how well they do. You know?
And it's not just ex-WWE talent that's at Impact that's helping to keep the company afloat. It's also talent that people have seen on the independent scene that have gotten signed to Impact, like a Jordan Grace or
Kylie Ray,
Callahan, or Deonna Purrazzo, who ultimately left WWE and came to Impact and has definitely done well for herself there. Same thing with Kylie Ray, who was a big name star in the Texas independent scene. Reality of Wrestling being one company that comes to mind for Kylie Ray's time on the indie scene. So, I mean, with Impact, honestly, if they were to go to Tuesdays, if NXT was to go to Tuesdays, I really wouldn't see Impact and NXT going head-to-head for long, because if you remember, the last time a WWE show was going to be moved to a night Impact was being featured on, which was on Tuesday nights when they were on the on that Pop channel years back. This is when SmackDown was being moved from Thursdays to now Tuesday Nights Live. And before we could see a Tuesday Night War, we ended up seeing Impact get moved back over to Thursday nights, which was probably better for them in the long run because SmackDown would have annihilated Impact. Yes, no doubt about it. And if this was to keep up, I would say Impact would definitely want to start thinking about going elsewhere, even possibly going back to Thursdays, which has always been a familiar day for them over the years, whether it been from Spike TV or Pop or whoever now that they're with at this point now with Access TV. So, but I mean, it's good though if that was to happen with NXT and AEW. I wouldn't have to worry about going back and forth watching both shows the same night or missing a couple of minutes of the main event of either show. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's both USA Network and WWE management's decision if they want to make the move from Wednesday nights to another night. It doesn't have to be Tuesdays; it could be any other night for NXT. I mean, I know Mike, you told me you wouldn't mind if it was during the weekends.
I would love to have a wrestling show on the weekend again. I miss Sunday Night Heat, man. Who doesn't?
I miss Ring of Honor on Saturday nights. You know,
yeah.
Even going back to the days of WCW Saturday Night or WWE's Saturday Night's Main Event, which was once every 3 months or whatever it was back in the day. So yeah. And speaking of Saturday Night Wrestling, of course, last night was All Out, AEW's big signature event. Like Jaime said, a lot of mixed emotions regarding that event, including the Broken Bones match, the Broken Rules match, excuse me, with there was no pun intended, Jaime, with Broken Matt Hardy against Sammy Guevara. When during the matchup we saw Sammy Guevara spear Matt Hardy, and Hardy's clearly hitting the concrete floor, passing through the tables that I guess they were going to be put through or what have you. But the match continued. It was stopped, but then restarted with Matt beating Sammy Guevara. But ultimately, was this the right call, keeping Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara wrestling one another for another couple more minutes to get a finish when they could have potentially may have saved that for a different time when Hardy was healthy?
Hell no. They should have just stopped it. I mean, you have the livelihood of, and like JR said, you know, the man's a father. He's a father of 3 boys. You know, he's a husband. He's a brother. You know, he pretty much told his brother, hey, I don't want you to be a spot monkey one time. And look where that got him. You know, they could have at least stopped the match, you know, and just, you know, given Sammy the win. Yes, you know, I understand stipulation purposes that if Matt Hardy would have lost, you know, he would have left AEW. I understand. But again, you're risking the guy. And if you look back, I mean, the minute Sammy picked him up, he was on spaghetti legs. He couldn't respond. You know, he was unconscious as soon as he hit the floor. You know, so I think they should have stopped the match. You know, and there's conflicting reports. You know, people are saying, oh, you know, Matt Hardy gave the okay after he passed the concussion protocol. If this was WWE, people would be burying WWE alive for this, and burying not only the talent, how they handled it, the concussion protocol. You know, had this been WWE, they would have stopped the whole match completely, and they would have said, you know what, dude, you're risking yourself. Just take a couple weeks off. No, they told Matt Hardy, hey, you want to go? He gave the okay. You know, he said, hey, let me go ahead and continue fighting. That shouldn't have happened. You're good.
Yeah, just right now, just moving to a different spot because I got to plug my phone in, but I'm listening.
You know, they should have at least stopped him, said, hey, you know what, this is very dangerous. You know, we could have a potential lawsuit. I mean, despite the fact that Matt Hardy wouldn't have sued, but his wife was clearly upset about the whole situation. And I mean, again, you know, she had been going off on Twitter all day. You know, she obviously called her husband an idiot for doing something like that. Idiot number 1, idiot number 2, you know, the company, because they didn't handle it properly. You know, like I said, you know, people were saying, hey, you know, he was okay. Tony Khan had said, hey, there was no concussion with Matt Hardy. Rebby said, hey, you know what? My husband's in the hospital right now. He has a concussion. Like, you know, who are you going to believe? I, you know, would believe the spouse because she's right there. She knows what's going on. You know, she's right there 24/7. She is with him until he gets better. Tony Khan's not with him. Tony Khan can't say, oh, he's better. He's not. So I think they should have stopped the match completely. They should have just done it like a no contest type of ruling. Due to the fact that Matt Hardy couldn't have moved on, finish the feud another time. Because again, this is someone's health. This is like, at the end of the day, AEW are backed in the corner and they're pretty much saying, hey, could we have done this differently? Yes. And you can also look back too. You can tell that the tables were really close to where they were going to fall off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an overshot situation that was a huge mistake. It wasn't careless or anything. It was, like I said, it was just something that I mean, legit scared me because, I mean, the way his head just bounced. And I think they should have stopped the match completely and instead of just kept on going.
Yeah, it's just, what is a concussion protocol to begin with? I mean, just because a wrestler says yes, he's fine, is he really fine? If the doctor's going to take their word for it, I mean, I could easily could have suffered a concussion, and yet I could tell Jaime, yeah, I'm fine, when in reality I'm not. I mean, honestly, that was just a situation that should have been looked at maybe a little bit better instead of just a couple minutes worth of time and then, okay, let's restart the match. But it was just, it was risky, like you said. Yeah. It unfortunately was a low light of All Out. I mean, All Out, was an overall good pay-per-view. But if there was one thing that kind of brought the mood down, it was ultimately the Broken Rules match with Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. But we do here at ARMBAR wish the best for Matt Hardy and hope that he gets better. Overall, of course, injuries is not something that we wish on anyone in the world of wrestling, and we just hope that he gets better overall. And then, of course, also at the event, we had to kick things off, going back to the beginning, we had the what was that thing called again? Oh, the tooth and nail match with Dr. Britt Baker and Big Swole. What was y'all's take on that match?
I thought it was impressive. It was a really good back and forth match. Now I know, dentist's office is very good as a wrestling ring. So never again am I going to go to the dentist or something. I'm just kidding. But it was a good match. It was very entertaining. I mean, Big Swole ended up taking the win, obviously. But I really liked it.
I thought it was going to be another one of those cinematic matches. I don't know why. Like, I was like, oh, no, not one of these. You know what I mean? Which I'm just like, you're seeing it a lot more in like WWE and AEW or whatever you want to call it. And you can thank the Hardys for starting those type of matches right back in their I guess, Impact days or whatever, or Ring of Honor days. I don't know exactly where they started it. Jay can probably enlighten.
Impact.
There you go. It was an Impact. But anyways.
I was tuning in, as always.
Yeah, so I was like, oh man, it's gonna be one of those matches where it's gonna be like cinematic. But I mean, it was really straightforward, and it was really confined to just a few little rooms in that doctor's office. And I was like, okay, this isn't that bad, right? But what kind of threw me off is, I guess, when Big Swole like got the needle or whatever, and I was like, is that real? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, first of all, should they be doing this? Because I mean, obviously, I know Dr. Britt Baker is an actual doctor, right? And I'm sure they had people. Yeah, I'm sure they had people in the background like monitoring that stuff, but it's like, okay, dude, like if you're having someone who's not even like, like I guess, what's the word? Not educated, but trained to do something like that, like put a needle in you, you know what I mean? Like that could be dangerous, you know what I mean? Like that could kill you if you're not doing it the right way, you know what I mean? So I mean, I'm glad, luckily nothing happened, and she kind of screwed herself over by having the match there in the office just because, you know what I mean? So Jaime, why are you sideways?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's because I'm trying to do something. Hang on.
You like paused your thing over here. But overall, I thought it was a good match. I mean, I thought it was a little bit short for what it was, but I mean, it was a good way to get the actual event started. You know what I mean?
And then, of course, your take on the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express.
If you can tell, the Young Bucks went in there aggressively in the match. They needed the win, because they had lost the tag team gauntlet. Obviously to the eventual winners, the FTR. So they were, pretty pissed off. They had a huge chip on their shoulder. In this past episode of AEW, when they teamed with Jurassic Express, again, they had a huge chip on their shoulder. So it wasn't, fun time. It wasn't time to celebrate. It wasn't, do flips and stuff. It was time to get down and wrestle, and that's what the Young Bucks did. And eventually that led them to their victory against the Jurassic Express.
And then, of course, back to afterwards was, of course, the Broken Rules match, but we've already spoken about that. Of course, also the champion versus champion match, very historic battle.
To me, that was match of the night, by the way.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. And shout out to Thunder Rosa. She would have left a triple champion. She pretty much pushed Hikaru Shida to the limit. And Jay, you and I, we've seen her compete in NWA multiple times. She isn't someone to mess with. She isn't someone to take lightly.
Another Texas wrestling superstar all over Texas who's competed on the independent scene here throughout Texas, including also upcoming with Mission Pro Wrestling later this month. I believe it's also next week, if I'm not mistaken, is that show.
Yes, it's next week. It's an all-women's event. She brought it. She took it to the limit. Unfortunately, she didn't walk out with the win. But I'm pretty sure she walked out with a lot more fans than she had already gone in, or that she already had.
Thunder Rosa back in AEW, or you thinking she'll be possibly staying with NWA?
I'm hoping that she goes and represents NWA in AEW. And if you paid attention, to her ring gear, she had the NWA logo, so she was proudly representing not only her her company as champion, but as a whole. So I thought she should have won that match, but regardless, it was a good match. It was a good back and forth match. And yeah.
Ultimately, it was a fantastic match between both champions. Ultimately, our love goes to both Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. It was a tremendous match. Hikaru Shida, of course, retained the AEW World Women's Championship. And, of course, speaking of championships, the opportunity at already a championship that's become so prestigious, and it's already a year old, the AEW World Title, an opportunity in the Casino Battle Royal, which we saw heavy hitters like Brian Cage, Lance Archer, and then, of course, a couple of new faces to AEW, particularly Matt Sydal.
Oh, God.
Yes.
You want to talk about that debut of Matt Sydal, by the way?
The way I look at it, hey, mistakes can happen in the world of wrestling.
All I know is that John Cena debuted in AEW.
John Cena debuted in AEW?
Yes, and he attacked Matt Sydal. I'm just kidding. Honestly, we all know that he was going to go for the 450 splash. Yes. He would have broken his neck or something, because he was really close to the turnbuckle. And by how he was on top of the turnbuckle, he had lost his footing. When he jumped, he immediately lost his footing, caused him to slip and pretty much fall backwards, and definitely made an ass of himself in front of international television.
Yeah. Speaking of also some heavy shots, what do you think of Brian Cage putting Darby Allin in the body bag, not coffin bag, the body bag, filled with thumbtacks and the power bomb on the stage.
Ooh.
Allen was still in the body bag. What do you think of that particular move?
I thought that was gruesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand, you want to eliminate someone, but that's not a way to do it. I know that they've had this ongoing feud with Darby Allin, both Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, but I mean, stuffing him in a body bag with thumbtacks and pretty much not throwing him, chucking him, like from the middle of the ring up onto the staging area.
Yeah.
That
you could
was
have accidentally overshot that.
that was terrible because I mean, if you think about it, the thumbtacks flying around inside the bag. You could have poked, you could have lost an eye like that. Just lost some internal, veins or whatever. I thought, I understand, why, but again, that shouldn't have had it happen. I think, just with the introduction alone of the thumbtacks in the battle royale should have been enough, but just clearly stuffing him in there with it, that was just terrible. So I think that was pretty bad.
And of course, your thoughts on the overall winner of the Casino Battle Royal, the Murder Hawk Monster and Texas' own Lance Archer.
Not too convincing. I think to me it's not too convincing. I mean, yes, it puts him in a good feud against the champion, which we're gonna go ahead and discuss in a little bit. Because I mean, Jay, we've seen this in New Japan. And the last time we saw those two guys go at it was in a Texas death match for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship.
This past
so I mean,
January at the Show of Shows, Wrestle Kingdom.
Yep. So I mean, it makes a good feud, but I mean, just him losing to Cody, I feel like he's lost all momentum whatsoever. I think Eddie Kingston should have won it. Because the guy he can talk and talk. He can fight you wherever, and doesn't matter how, he'll fight you. So I think he should have won, but I mean, they had to use the good old snake gag, and I remember the commentators were pretty much calling out Jake the Snake and saying, "Hey, this isn't 1985 anymore," So I mean, so I think the whole snake gag. I mean, yeah, it's still relevant because I mean, there's people there that are afraid of snakes. Regardless, I think Kingston should have won. He had an amazing showing. He was really smart in regards to the whole match. So
it could definitely help possibly rebuild Lance Archer's credibility. I mean, yes, it didn't speak very good with him losing to Cody at Double or Nothing to crown the first AEW TNT champion. But at the same time, though, he has been in the ring with Moxley at the Show of Shows, so who knows when those two will be battled for the AEW World Championship. And then, of course, also we had an 8-man tag. Speaking of Rhodes, we had Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, the Natural Nightmares, against the former Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, Strong Islands, they like to call them, along with Scorpio Sky, who is just continuing to get better as a single star on his own against members of the Dark Order, which was, of course, Brody Lee, the TNT champion, Colt Cabana, the, I guess, honorary member of Dark Order, and then a couple other guys. What was your take on the match itself, and also how Colt Cabana was addressed by Brody Lee following the, let's just say the end result of the matchup?
First, I want to address the elephant in the room right now. I love the fact that JR said Dick Grayson instead of Stu Grayson on commentary.
Wasn't that Robin's real name?
Yes. Well, it was one of the incarnations of Robin who eventually became Nightwing. But however, I laughed because, and if you kind of paid attention like throughout the whole night, the commentary wasn't as sync as they normally would be. They were kind of a bit off. They were screwing, some names around and stuff, talking about nonsense. So this was just a nail in the coffin. I was like, are you like, you have one job. This guy shows up every week. It's not some random independent star. It's your own company's star, and you just change his name to Dick Grayson. So I thought that was just hilarious.
To be fair, Morrow did do that a couple of times when he was the lead announcer on SmackDown. So, but it wasn't as frequent as Mike Adamle when he was commentating on
Oh yeah,
the new version of ECW.
Jeff Harvey.
Yeah, Jeff Harvey, Jelly, or I'm sorry, Kelly, as he referred to her as. Or worse yet, and I still remember this to this day, not Taz, but the Taz.
I mean, I think the match was good. It was a good back and forth 10 match.
I think Mike. I'm sorry, but I think Mike Adamle made Herb Abrams sound like Gordon Soley by comparison.
Oh jeez, don't get me to that point right there. Herb Cookies.
Herbie Cookies, yes. Side of the Ring UWF episode. Watch it when you can.
I mean, it was a good match. It was very compelling, back and forth. It wasn't, oh, let's go ahead and stop this and do something totally obscure or random. No, it was legit. A few that had been going on because of Cody losing the TNT Championship to Mr. Brody Lee. In which everyone started attacking. We saw Anna Jay attempting to attack Scorpio Sky, in which Brandy intervened. So it was a good match. I'm glad that Dustin got the victory. To be able to defend his brother's honor. And this coming Wednesday, he has a championship match against Mr. Brody Lee for the AEW TNT Championship.
Now you also got to think about how long has it been since Dustin Rhodes, whether as Dustin or his old incarnation Goldust, has had a championship opportunity. So
a singles championship opportunity.
Huh?
A singles championship opportunity, because remember,
championship, could be singles or tag team.
Well, I mean, I want to say the tag team. I want to say it was back in 2013 when he held it with his brother Cody. But singles, it had been a while. I think he was once Intercontinental Champion back in the early.
3 times. He held the Intercontinental Championship between 1996 to 1999.
There you go. See?
But also in WCW held the U.S. title twice. But yeah, his opportunity to be the third man to hold the TNT Championship, it'd be thrilling for the Rhodes family to have that title back, but also how much the Rhodes family has meant to the Turner stations over the years. This would be a very satisfying and sweet victory for Dustin. He used to get his revenge for Cody, but also to take that title away from Brody Lee and once again be representing Turner Network Television as the champion for AEW Dynamite. And then, of course, also we had the AEW World Tag Team titles that were at stake. I thought perhaps one of the best matches of the night, Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page against FTR. Could have gone either way, but all it took was just one mistake on Hangman and Omega's part, and ultimately it was FTR that walked out the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. But also, let's not forget how Omega reacted to the loss, to where he ended up just leaving Hangman high and dry and tried to convince the Young Bucks to go with him. But the Bucks are, I guess, kind of stewing on this for now. I mean, what do you make of what could be the implosion of the Elite?
I thought either Omega or Hangman were going to turn on each other during the match. And I had seen, some good spots as to like, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and just deck this guy because he wasn't there for me these past couple of weeks. I.e. Kenny Omega. For Omega, just leave him like that. I feel like he's sick and tired of Hangman not caring anymore. He hasn't really been tag team partner material, obviously, because as a center commentator, they had started becoming a tag team in January. They were facing a team who had started off as a tag team. And I believe they either started uh during their initial run in NXT or even before that. So you have a team that has had years of experience who work as a well-oiled machine, who pretty much just bounce off of each other, versus a team that really is just like uh, gum to paper and that's it. It sits, but eventually it'll come off. So I think it was good that the Revival won, and
The who?
I'm sorry, not the Revival. I'm sorry, FTR, because someone is eventually gonna chew my ass off later. So I mean, I'm glad that they won. And they're the only tag team to win tag team gold in different brands or company. They've won the NXT Tag Team Championships, Raw and SmackDown tag titles. Now AEW. People are saying, hey, you know what? They should go for the NWA World Tag Team Championships or Impact World Championships, Tag Team Championships. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen. I mean, in wrestling, you can never say never, unless it's an injury or retirement. But who knows what'll happen?
I mean, ultimately, the tag team division is just very stacked in AEW, where you got FTR as the champions. You got the Young Bucks. We're still awaiting on the dream match between FTR and the Young Bucks. Best friends, Ortiz and Santana, the Jurassic Express, the Lucha Bros, even a tag team like for example, Peter Avalon and that other guy.
They're not a tag team
Oh,
anymore.
they're not. Oh.
No,
They split up on Dark, or
yeah. After a couple losses, let's just say that I think either Brandon Cutler turned on Peter Avalon, or Peter had turned on Brandon and just left him high and dry. So they're no longer a team.
As much as I'm a huge AEW fan, I've mainly just watched the main show. It's been a while since I've watched Dark, because Tuesday nights I always like to kind of like keep that night for Impact Wrestling, and might possibly be keeping that night for NXT in the future. I don't know, but yeah, just. But what I was going with that team, before you told me they split up, they could be a tag team that comes out of nowhere that eventually slides into the number one contendership. But now that's likely to happen. About as likely to happen as Jaime willingly going to Bound for Glory this year.
Gillies.
But in all seriousness, though, it's just, out of all the tag teams in every promotion, I think this is perhaps the most stacked tag team scene is in AEW. And I'm just excited for FTR's future as far as tag teams who they'll be facing. Some they've already faced, but now with more higher stakes, now that they're the World Tag Team Champions. And they're, of course, guided by a man who's, held World Tag Team Championship gold, both in the World Wrestling Federation and the National Wrestling Alliance, that being Tully Blanchard. So it's very exciting. And, of course, speaking of excitement, I love the Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho Mimosa Mayhem match. I'm sure, Mike, you had your gallons of orange juice with you by your side while watching.
Oh, yeah. And my slices of pizza.
Or that too, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a match that ultimately could help make Orange Cassidy become a legit main eventer. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, because like Jaime, my first time seeing Orange Cassidy was at All In 2 years ago. Where ultimately it all began for AEW. And a couple of years later, to go from that being this guy that we really didn't know much about to now all of a sudden he's the semi-main event with perhaps the biggest legend in wrestling today that's still currently going in Chris Jericho. I know, yes, the match may be a little silly, but yet it's basically a story of a man that loves his bubbly and a man that's known for his orange juice, but yet you got a legend and a guy that could one day be a legend. And those two had, I thought, was a very good, fantastic match. And ultimately, the right guy, in my opinion, came out the hero of the day with Orange Cassidy defeating Chris Jericho. And it could also help elevate Cassidy to bigger and better things, hopefully down the line. As, you know, yes, he's not known to be known as the most fiery personality in wrestling, but yet I'm sure his T-shirts are selling. I'm sure his action figure, when AEW gets it released later on this year, is going to be a hot seller, much like the AEW figure line itself is a hot seller. Trust me, I've gone to every Walmart. I can tell you that much. And I enjoyed the match. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I just want to go ahead and let you guys know that Jericho is 0-2 in match innovation that he has yet to win. He innovated the match with a briefcase and a ladder.
Yeah. That financial statement, I'm guessing, is Money in the Bank.
And he didn't win that one in WrestleMania 25. And he didn't. I'm thinking 2005. And he didn't win the Mimosa Mayhem match either. I thought the match could have gone either way. However, Orange Cassidy did win. He didn't give up. He showed Jericho that he's no pushover. He's not some guy that you can just make fun of and just say, hey, you know what, you're a loser. Orange Cassidy was able to back up his talk because the man is a man of a few words, if you catch my drift. So I mean, I thought it was a great match. Never again is Chris Jericho going to see Mimosa the same.
I don't think I've ever drank a mimosa. I mean, I did try champagne once when I was 25. I've not tried it since. I'm 36 now. Still have not tried it to this day. Mike, I don't think you ever drank mimosa or any kind of alcoholic beverage. Am I correct?
I've drinking champagne, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah. And Jaime,
last time I drank was my wedding night, and that was it.
Yep. It was a very good night too, by the way. It was your wedding night.
Oh yeah.
And I especially since I just came out of the dentist's office the night before and was still in pain and still enjoyed it.
Yep. But I mean, again, the match was good, and hopefully that put some closure on both men, because like they said, it was an ongoing 14-week feud, that started with Jericho winning, and then Orange Cassidy following up, I believe last month. So this was just a closure match. So, everyone walked with, just happiness, I guess.
Do you guys think this feud's going to continue, or do you think it's going to be buried since he is 2-1 against Jericho, and their match.
This was like the final chapter. At least
that was your closing match. Usually, they.
I don't know. I think Chris Jericho might have something up his sleeve for the next pay-per-view. Maybe we'll see.
We'll see, but I looked at it as the final chapter.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I'm just gonna throw this out there, right? A lot of people are probably kind of shocked that Jericho's actually putting over a lot of talent in AEW.
Oh yeah.
Ever since he debuted, obviously, you can't take anything away from Jericho because he was the first ever on a lot of things. And even though I know Jaime's made mention saying he hasn't won any of his innovated matches, he doesn't really need to either because he's Chris Jericho, you know what I mean? And I think when his career is all said and done, you know what I mean, he's going to be at least top 5 of all time, really, honestly. In my opinion, I think he's already kind of up there, you know what I mean? Because he's been doing it for, 30 years already?
Yeah.
To me, him and Rey Mysterio are, the top 2 guys as far as, active wrestlers going on for the time that they've been wrestling, right? But it's just very iconic, you know what I mean? That he's kind of redefined himself so many times from WCW to early WWE to, his later years in WWE where he was more of a suit, you know what I mean? And then, he chopped off his hair, he started with the list, you know what I mean? And then just over and over, he's reinventing himself, and not a lot of people can do that in the business, you know what I mean? And Chris Jericho is one of those guys that he can leave and then he can come back and he'll be more popular than ever, whether he's a heel or a face, you know what I mean? And right now he's a tweener. I think right now he's a tweener because he's got that inner circle, surrounding him, with all of that talent. But again, he's the leader of that big group, right? So, he has the say, he has the power, right? Because he's Chris Jericho, right? No one else can put their foot down like he can, you know what I mean? I think Orange Cassidy, though, I think even though that he's given these spots, obviously he's got a few more years before people will really start to kind of enjoy him. It was a good match. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that there was a lot of little spots where it's like, whoa, like, like who's going to fall in first? Like one person's leg was in the mimosa juice or whatever. And then, Jericho's hand or shoulder, kind of fell in, but they were hanging. I thought it was going to be a little, I was waiting to see someone's feet like hooked to the rope and then like their body like kind of halfway in, you know what I mean? I was waiting for something like that, or maybe one of them dangling from the ropes. I didn't really get to see much of that. Maybe just a little bit, you know what I mean? I think they could have did a little bit a better job of that. But I mean, I think it's crazy. And just going back to like, those tag matches and even Dustin Rhodes, it's like, Dustin Rhodes, you're right. He hasn't had a title shot in probably a good, 15 years probably for a singles title. Early 2000s, if anything at best, right? And he's just been kind of, when he was in WWE towards his later years, he was just the guy that was, putting over talent. Not to say that he wasn't putting on great matches either, you know what I mean? Every time he returned, the fans kept saying, you still got it, obviously, because, his wrestling ability never went away. And, he didn't really have one of those careers where he was plagued by, severe injuries like a lot of other stars that had to leave and then really had, to limit their abilities. And you don't see that in Dustin Rhodes or Justin Runnels or whatever you want to call him, or Goldust, you know what I mean? I'm always going to remember him as Goldust, right? I kind of miss the gold, and the Golden Truth era, you know what I mean? Or him with Booker T. Those were fun times, because, you had a character that didn't even need to wrestle, and he was, getting attention. And for those that followed him throughout the years, he's going to be forever engraved in the wrestling history. You know what I mean? I think that's pretty crazy and he's one of those guys kind of like Jake Roberts in a sense where, he never had to win the big one in order to make a huge impact. And, it was just he's one of those guys that, he'll probably never win the main championship. Who knows? Cause in all elite wrestling, anything can happen. Right. But he's going to be one of those guys, in my opinion, that's just, he'll stand the test of time in wrestling history, and he's always going to be a lot of people's favorites. Going back to the Omega and FTR match with Adam Page, or I was going to call him Adam Cole. I really didn't care for that match, to be honest. I really thought that should have been the first match on the card, or maybe even in the pre-show. You know what I mean? I'm just not invested in AEW's tag team division right now. And reason being is because the top tag team is not the champions right now. And I don't think the Revival or FTR, whatever you want to call them, are the top tag teams right now. In that company, at least. I really believe that it should have been the Lucha Bros since the beginning. You know what I mean? But I know they've been kind of separated a little bit due to the pandemic. I know, one of them was stuck in Mexico. I forgot which one. I think it was Penta. In Mexico. Phoenix is here, and Phoenix has been kind of, doing a little bit of solo action, and then vice versa. He's been kind of in and out with other teams, just to kind of keep him busy, right? But at the same time, I think that, them, and unfortunately I had to say this, the Young Bucks are the two top tag teams in AEW right now. You know what I mean? FTR kind of just came in, and yes, they have their pedigree as former WWE champions or WWE tag team champions, excuse me, and they might have held, Raw, SmackDown, NXT championships, whatever, but they just never really got over in WWE. You know what I mean? They're good talents. Don't get me wrong, but it's just one of those things where, I want to see more character out of them. I mean, and I am seeing a little bit. I was gonna say by Wilder or Dawson. I can't even remember their names.
Cash Wheeler and Dax Hardwood.
Okay, Hardwood is the bald one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. And there's just so many wrestlers nowadays. It's just hard to remember everyone's names. It's ridiculous, right? Like, I mean, Jay, I know you got this. Hyman, I know you got this also. But for me, it's like I can't remember all their names. Dude, especially when they're transitioning between companies, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, unless they're guys like Chris Jericho, obviously Chris Jericho got to keep his name, and Dustin, who's been in the business for 30 years, and I just know it sticks with you over the years, right? But no, like, don't get me wrong, I thought it was an okay match. It was one of the better matches of the night. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like I still think that they should be, trying to work, at least claw their way up a little bit rather than within the first couple of months of just being thrown in there already given the tag team champions. Now, going back to Omega and Page, I never really cared for them as the tag team champions. And they've, you can tell that their little feud or rivalry is going to turn into an actual rivalry. You know what I mean? Omega's pissed off now, right? Adam Page has his drinking problem, so I don't know what's going on with him or whatever. The guy's just been kind of quiet and out of the picture for the past couple of weeks already. And something's building up, obviously. FTR did a great job kind of trying to get in the middle of those two, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, if they're not connecting as a team, then they're not going to win the match, obviously. And that's exactly what happened. So, I'm a little bit excited to see what's going to happen there. But like, I'm going to just say this because, and before we get to the main event, because, I saw a post earlier that Jay posted about Kenny Omega, like with all his accolades up until 2019, which he held like, a lot of major championships. And now the first, year in AEW, and he's not being used at all. And I'm just like, oh, like this is making me so mad because, if he's supposed to be the top talent that everyone, is ruling over the past 2-3 years already, why aren't they putting him in that spot? Why aren't they giving him like, the number one spot? I want to see him versus Jon Moxley. I want to see him at least go for like the TNT championship or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's really grinding my gears because I really want to see what the hype is all about. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I've seen his matches. You know what I mean? I've seen his 30-hour-long matches with Kazuchika Okada and all these other guys, you know what I mean? Like YouTube, thankfully, right? But it's just like, okay, like let's transition it over into the States and let's see what this guy can do and let's see how popular he can really be, you know what I mean? And I want to see that, I want that because, I think, he's closer to my age and Jay's age, right? So he's a generational guy for me that I want to see do well. You know what I mean? Guys like, Seth Rollins, even Jon Moxley, they're all close to that age range as well. So I'm just like, I want to see them do well, but I'm just like, why aren't they using him? Like they use him half the time on the actual main show and half the time he's on AEW Dark, which nobody really watches. I mean, I watch it, don't get me wrong, but I mean, yes, maybe he's trying to build more talent, within the company. And I get that, but it's just like, okay, like, again, this is supposed to be the top wrestler in the world, and he, got that title last year on PWA's Top 500, and maybe the year before that, I think it was AJ Styles. But he's been in like the top 3, top 5 the past couple of years. So just like, why not put him in that spot already? Like, what is Tony Khan waiting for, right? What is Cody Rhodes waiting for? Does Kenny Omega just want to break? Does he just want to break, Jay? You tell me.
I would say so because the year before the formation of AEW, he was in the G1 tournament in 2018, and he said the G1 took a lot out of him. And, going from being the top guy in New Japan Pro Wrestling to being a tag team specialist now at AEW, he wants to have a break instead of having that pressure cooker of being the guy that's the guy in AEW. And I'm sure eventually, whenever Omega is ready to be the guy in AEW, I'm sure we'll all be ready for it when the day comes he decides to challenge whoever the world champion is at the time, which right now is Jon Moxley, who of course was voted #1 wrestler in the PWI 500 2020. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm still an Omega fan regardless of how he's being used. I mean, why turn your back on someone you've already been a fan of for however long? But I mean, I thought with him and Page being a tag team, it was, I think, at the most to really help build the tag team division in AEW overall. Because although they already had a good tag team scene, by attaching Omega and Hangman Page, who were already pretty popular as it was as part of the Bullet Club, and then later the Elite, to the lineage of the AEW Tag Team Championship, it would get more eyeballs on the product because people know who Omega and Page are, two guys that were self-made talents that didn't need the machine in Stamford, Connecticut, or their secondary machine in Orlando, Florida, to prove that they could be big-name stars. They got it done, whether it was in Baltimore, Maryland, or in Tokyo, Japan, and now bringing that to Jacksonville, Florida. And, of course, before we get to talking about those other two great companies in Baltimore and Tokyo, let's finish out All Out. Of course, Jon Moxley against MJF for the AEW World Title. Basically, it was a case of where someone's O had to go because neither one of them had been beaten in AEW since the formation of the company, at least in singles competition, and yet Jon Moxley retained the championship. His paradigm shift was banned from ringside, or was banned from use, I should say, throughout the match, was banned from being used. However, the last thing I remember, I don't know what happened, but MJF, the ring was tossed in, the diamond ring that he won when he beat Hangman Page late last year in the Diamonds tournament that AEW established. However, I mean, he's got blood in his eyes. He's not going to see something that small come at him despite Wardlow's best efforts. Yeah. But all I remember is that my TV went blank. But the top of the TV screen came back on.
Really?
1, 2, 3. Still the world champion is Jon Moxley.
Horrible. That's like bad timing right there on your part. Well, I mean, you didn't miss much. It was like when MJF kind of, thumbed Jon Moxley to the eye. You know what I mean? It was the same thing with Jon Moxley. Like, the referee had his back turned, and he took advantage, I think Wardlow was distracting the ref or whatever, and Moxley took advantage, and he hit him with the paradigm shift. So I mean, there was that, you know what I mean? To be honest, like, overall, like, aside from the fact that I hate MJF, right, and everyone's saying, oh, he's doing his job if you hate him. No, I just hate his character. Like, I mean, I don't care for him as a wrestler either. But to be honest, it wasn't a bad match. You know what I mean? Like, the guy is going to be he's going to be his generation of superstar, like, where it's just like the 2000s and on, basically. You know what I mean? He's gonna be one of the top guys for the next 10 years. And I'm not gonna vote for him though. That's for sure. I'm gonna vote the other way. But I mean, he's gonna be in that spot, and I'm kind of glad they're kind of building the young talent like that. Because I mean, first of all, AEW they could have made anybody else their first champion, right? But they made a former WWE star their first champion, and then again they made another WWE star their champion, and again Brody Lee, another former WWE star, their champion. These are just singles titles. I'm not talking about tag team champions or anything.
And who was the first TNT champion?
Cody was the first TNT, former WWE. Exactly. So it's like, okay, like Tony Khan, like, if you want everyone to be elite, obviously, then you should be giving these title runs to people that are, and I get it, like, these are names that have made it outside of their company, obviously, right? And that Jericho, a former champ, Moxley, a former champ, Brody Lee, former Intercontinental champ and tag team champion. So he in his own right had some big accomplishments outside of AEW as well, right? And they get noticed more because of it, right? But it's like, okay, like, it's gotta happen eventually, where they gotta start building these other guys like what's his face, Sonny Kiss, for instance, right now, right? Maybe not the greatest example, right? But and maybe he can change up his. I'm sorry.
Joey Janello, another guy that.
Joey Janello, yeah, who's I think got a twin apparently, according to the pre-show. I think he's got a brother or cousin that is trying to make it big also. It kind of looks like he dressed just like him. But you guys have guys like Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus. I would really love to see Luchasaurus do well in the company, right? Even the little guy, what's his name?
Marco Stunt.
Marco Stunt. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, maybe they'll throw out like a super lightweight championship or something, or like, I don't know, anything just to kind of get a division.
Think of it this way, Mike. You're a Patriots fan, right?
Yes.
Okay, so think of it this way. Before they had Tom Brady, he was the go-to guy to win championships. All right, and would you rather have a rookie who's never led a team to a championship, be the face of a team, or would you rather use a guy that's, hey, this guy's won championships, with this team, we can go ahead and have him play for this position. You get me?
Well, I mean,
it's
if
kind
you think about it, they,
it's kind of like that,
yeah,
to me,
I
to me
agree.
that's how it is, with Tom Brady going into, for example, like the Tampa Bay Bucks. They've never won a Super Bowl,
Yeah, they have.
or they have, but I mean, it's been a while,
Yeah, years.
know,
It's like 2003 or 4, I think.
I think so. So it's been a while, and now that they have, this guy that's a name value, kind of like a Chris Jericho in their eyes.
The
You
ratings are going to go up. So
pretty much, you want to give him the chance to take the team to win the Super Bowl, and then later on, if he retires and whatnot, hey, you go ahead and give it to someone else, so I mean, that's the way I see it. You can use any sport, you can use your basketballs, you can use baseball, it's going to be the same thing. You'd rather use a guy that's won championships wherever he's been. It doesn't matter if it's WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor. You'd rather use that guy. And then,
so then going back to Kenny Omega, then why not go with Kenny Omega as the first champion? You know what I mean? Because he was hot. He was hot coming into AEW. That's why.
I mean, yeah, he's
hotter than Chris Jericho. That's
he was a hot commodity, but at the same time, eventually they fizzle out. Jericho, we've never seen him fizzle out, and once he starts to fizzle, he starts thinking of something quick. He starts thinking of something new. Jay, or the example that I gave you earlier, his return to WWE in 07. His face turn was slowly just fizzling out. Eventually, he became a heel, and his character was very reminiscent to, one of the characters from No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Where like, and perfect analogy, I was watching Unforgiven in 08. He didn't really give any F's. The fact that he, punched Rebecca, Shawn Michaels' wife, he didn't care. He didn't care whether or not Shawn Michaels went into the match already injured. He was gonna fight, and win, and then later on that night, he went to compete again in the championship scramble match, and he won the World Heavyweight Championship. He didn't really care. So whenever his little star starts to fizzle, or just starts to go out, he pretty much reinvents himself and gives himself something different, close to what he did before, but it as a different twist.
Well, looks like we have Pete Rivetta here saying the right rivals, the right push, and it can happen, right? And I think that's kind of true also, right? And I guess AEW going into their new promotion like that, they had to use someone that was going to draw that main event, right, which was Chris Jericho. So, but I really would have preferred it being Chris Jericho and Omega again rather than him and Page. But that was just me, again. To put myself on mute real quick, guys, because I do have my dogs fighting in the background. So.
All right, that's on. Because the next subject we're going to talk about is the current happenings in New Japan and Ring of Honor. So we'll, whenever you can, of course, just pick up from here, Mike. Jaime, of course, I'll ask you about a couple of items. Let me just, like I said, I was charging my phone a little bit. Sorry about that.
All right.
Of course, in a couple of, well, actually, before we get to that, getting back to New Japan, we have, of course, the upcoming, actually, it's actually ongoing. Oh, got so much wrestling going on. It's hard to tell what's what, but we got, of course, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship currently being contested in a round-robin tournament. The reason for that, due to Roppongi 3K having to vacate the title due to an injury Yo suffered during the New Japan Cup this past summer. So the show had to vacate the championships this past week at a press conference. But the teams that are in, which is a mini round-robin tournament that began this past Thursday, we got representing Team New Japan, Ryosuke Taguchi and Master Wato. From the Bullet Club, Taiji the Bone Soldier Ishimori and Gato. From Suzuki-gun, El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And from Los Ingobernables del Japón, Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi. I haven't had a chance to see these matches yet. Just been busy with a lot of things, but I will try to catch up before I head back to my regular job this coming Tuesday. But who, in your opinion, do you feel would be the favorites to become IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, winning the finale that takes place this coming Friday?
I think LIJ, the team with LIJ, should be able to be the ones who become the new champions. Because I mean, if you think about it, they already have the IWGP Intercontinental and the Heavyweight Championships with them. So why not add some more gold by winning that tournament? So I think they are a favorite to win. So it's only a matter to find out, and just stick to the tournament and see what happens.
And of course, also next Friday, that won't be the only championship decided. Of course, we'll see the never open weight 6-man tag team titles at stake, in which it's a battle between two Chaos teams, in which we got Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, and Yoshihashi defending the championship that they won recently in a tournament to crown new champions. They will take on Kazuchika Okada, Sho from Roppongi 3K, and the KOPW champion, Toru Yano. Who do you see as the favorite winning that one? Of course, I know it's going to be a Chaos team either which way, but do you see Okada, Toru Yano, and Sho winning the gold there, or do you see it being still retained by Ishii, Goto, and Yoshihashi?
I think it's going to be retained. I think, if they just won the titles, it's too soon to drop them. I mean, despite the fact that, you said there's still going to be a Chaos match. So I think that a good title defense is still going to be able to move on.
And that's, of course, this coming Friday on NJPW World, which will be, of course, hours before New Japan Strong, which, I gotta tell you, man, every Friday with New Japan Strong, the show just gets better and better.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we saw Darren Rosser, Fred Rosser, the former Darren Young, debut this past week on NJPW Strong. Any prospects, what you see with Fred Rosser now in New Japan Pro Wrestling of America?
I mean, he last time we saw him was with WWE. He had a good run. I think, now that he's in New Japan, he's got a lot to show for. After obviously he was released in WWE, he had competed in some indie scenes. And I mean, if you think about it, he's back. He's more athletic. He's just ready. So I think New Japan's gonna give him that chance. Hopefully, will we ever see him competing in Japan one day? Who knows? But I mean, I think he's a star with a lot of talent, and he is just ready to shine.
What was your thoughts on the main event with Flip Gordon taking on Switchblade Jay White this past week?
It was a very good back and forth match. To me, it was like a Ring of Honor-esque type of match. Because I mean, both guys, they were in Ring of Honor, or I mean, Flip Gordon's still in Ring of Honor. Yeah. So I thought it was a really good back and forth match. So I mean, the promo after Jay White cut in regards to who the leader of Bullet Club is. I mean, it was
what Bullet Club we're talking about. We got the Bullet Club that's in New Japan Pro Wrestling of America, and we got the Bullet Club that's in Japan currently for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah. So it could be Switchblade, it could be Evil, or it could be Gato, who's kind of altering on both sides. Who knows? Yeah. And speaking of Ring of Honor, you just mentioned Flip Gordon's current association. Ring of Honor finally back with some original content this coming week. or actually the next couple of weeks on the 12th of September is when I believe it's going to be airing on the Sinclair stations. But for us, we'll be able to get it as soon as the Monday thereafter on the Fight TV app or on ROHWrestling.com.
Or you can also watch it on the new app. Yes, the Stir app. They have their own Ring of Honor channel, which is 24/7. You could also watch it on, if you have Pluto TV, on Stadium. They're on Wednesdays at 9 and 10 o'clock as well.
Yeah, not the reformation, but the restart of Ring of Honor. Of course, we will see, of course, in the restart, the beginning of the Pure Championship tournament. And of course, I'm sure you've already read through the names. We got from Ring of Honor, PJ Black, Dalton Castle, Delirious, Jonathan Gresham, Kenny King, Jay Lethal, who's a former Pure champion, Tracy Williams, Josh Woods, and Silas Young, while from New Japan, or free agents for that matter, David Finley, Rocky Romero, Matt Seidel, who we saw last night at All Out, and from the independents, names that we're seeing for the first time, like Fred Yehai, Wheeler Yuta, Russ Taylor, Tony DePen. Of course, this is a championship that AJ Styles brought in 2004 as the first Pure champion when he beat CM Punk in the finals of the tournament, only for Nigel McGuinness to be the final champion when Bryan Danielson and him clashed for both the Ring of Honor and the Pure titles in England back in 2006. And of course, in between, we had champions like Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal hold on to that championship. Out of the entire bracketeer, of course, who do you see walking away as the new Pure champion when the tournament comes to an end?
I think Josh Woods is going to come out as champion. I mean, he's had an impressive showing in Ring of Honor for the pandemic, so I think he should be able to win the championship. If not him, I'd want to say Fred Yehai, because he has held championship gold before. He was the former Evolve champion. So I mean, anything can happen, so I think Josh Woods should be able to become the newly reactivated Pure champion for Ring of Honor.
And of course, the format of the tournament will be, of course, competitors will be divided into two blocks. Kind of think of like the G1, except this is going to be single elimination. First round matches are 15-minute time limit. The block semifinal matches are going to both be 20 minutes each that they have for the time limit. The block finals are 30 minutes, and then the finale of the entire tournament is a 1-hour time limit. And in case of any draws, we got Gary Juster, who's in charge of Ring of Honor's director, who's in charge of operations at Ring of Honor. And then, of course, we also got Sumi Sakai, former Women of Honor world champion, who will also be one of the judges at ringside. Of course, also the rules as they state. Code of honor should be adhered to before and after the match. Each wrestler gets 3 rope breaks to stop a submission. After all 3 rope breaks have been exhausted, then, of course, any submissions where the wrestler gets to the ropes to try to break them are now considered legal. And closed fist punches are prohibited from the match. And, of course, also, it's, as always, the 20-count standard rule for when it comes to a count-out. So much that goes into this. Ultimately, it's a throwback of the original days of Ring of Honor. If you, I know you started watching, like you told me in the past, beginning back in 2017, but you had a chance to dabble in, maybe not Honor Club, but perhaps on the Stir.
I know. On YouTube, I've been able to watch some old school Ring of Honor matches, and I'm kind of familiar with the rules of the Pure Championship. So I mean, that pretty much they are gonna go ahead and rehash how it was before, and try to make it more competitive. So we'll go ahead and see what happens, with all these things that are going on. And these wrestlers, they're not used to just limited amount of rope breaks and whatnot. So we'll see how that plays as a favor to some as opposed to others.
Yeah. And of course, man, I definitely look forward to it. It's been, I was looking forward to Ring of Honor's anniversary show this past March when, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, that got halted. And I'm sure you've been looking for, I guess you could say perhaps maybe a Tuesday night alternative to your current wrestling viewing habits on Tuesday nights. Now that Ring of Honor is soon to be returning with original content, beginning as of the weekend of September 12th on their Sinclair broadcast stations. But ultimately, it's good to have New Japan and Ring of Honor back in operations. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe also CMLL is already back in operations as well.
I want to say yes. I haven't really checked into it due to the fact that life and stuff. So I haven't really checked anything in regards to CMLL or AAA. But I want to say that they are starting to come back. I know that CMLL is trying to have their anniversary show, if I'm not mistaken, before the end of the month. So I need to double check to see if they are gonna make a comeback or with that show it's gonna be their comeback to TV.
Now, what did Mike say he was at again?
Mike said that he was pulling a Michael Vick and issuing a dog. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he was trying to separate his dogs because they're apparently fighting.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm still here, guys. Sorry.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, sorry. I turned off my cam. I'm still here. I'm monitoring the live chat or whatever you want to call it. So don't worry, I'm still here. I don't know. Did you guys want to go ahead and close it out, or did you want to continue on a little bit longer?
Before we close it out, I wanted to ask, kind of like what I did last time, a random question, I guess, to pose to both of you guys. Last time we talked about favorite show memory, house show or live event memories that you guys have had going to shows over the years. Another question I wanted to ask, kind of similar to that, but a little bit altered. When the pandemic does officially come to an end and fans are able to go back to shows here in the United States at full capacity or at full force, whatever, if another big wrestling promotion was to come to South Texas or any part of Texas, what would be the promotion you would like to see next that you would pay a ticket to go see?
Mike?
I mean, there's really only two promotions that I would pay tickets for right now, which would be either WWE or AEW. I highly doubt that Ring of Honor or Impact are going to come down here anytime soon, even post pandemic, right? Obviously, it really has to depends on what's going to happen as far as the requirements. Are they going to have half capacity stadiums if something like that goes down? You know what I mean? I mean, I really think that we're still going to be in this thing for the next 6 months to even maybe another year, sadly, even after the vaccine is distributed, right? So, I mean, if all goes well and hopefully we can get, at least other shows going back on after the pandemic, I'm down to see an AEW show or even another WWE show, although I've heard that WWE wants to kill their house shows completely now. And then I guess just focus on the pay-per-views and maybe like the Monday night Raws and the SmackDowns and all that. But as far as house shows, I think they're gonna start trying to trickle away from that.
I wouldn't mind going to a Ring of Honor show. I know that you had invited me to go to one, and due to financial issues, I wasn't able to go. But I wouldn't mind going, start things off, or at least say WWE or AEW. If New Japan were to ever come, we were to get lucky, hey, we can go ahead and attend that. But it all depends on how things are with the pandemic wise. As mentioned last week, there are some questionable things in regards to letting an audience back in, to closed arenas or open stadiums. So who knows?
I think with myself, having been to so many WWE shows over the years, and also gone to a couple of Impact/TNA events over the years, and having the honor to have gone to a New Japan show for the first time last last summer of 2019.
Just say you've gone everywhere.
Not everywhere, no, because there's two I would love to one day kind of check off the bucket list, and that's Ring of Honor and AEW. And yes, matter of fact, the show I invited you to was for San Antonio for Ring of Honor right before the pandemic, and that unfortunately put the kibosh on that. But I would love to go to another if all's well with the world, like the pandemic's no longer a factor or whatever, and travel is not. Travel's not going to be something that people would have to be worrisome about, no matter what part of the world you're coming from. I would love to go to another New Japan show. I mean, I can tell you from experience, it was the most amazing wrestling show I ever went to. Was the opening night of the G1 for New Japan, and I'd love to also add Ring of Honor and AEW to that list as well. For WWE, I'd love to go to another NXT Takeover show. That'd be something I'd love to do once again someday. But yeah, anybody else got any final comments?
That's it for now. I mean, sorry, I put myself on mute again because I have my 3 dogs here playing. They're having a Royal Rumble of themselves, right? But I mean, hopefully, I don't know. The next couple months is going to be an interesting sight to see, whether it be like, pandemic, going away or not. You know what I mean? Once the vaccine starts coming out and people actually start getting the shots and they feel more safe going back into the wild and socialize more. Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. You know what I mean? There's still people going out every weekend, like and that's just gonna happen. It's Labor Day weekend. There was probably a buttload of people at the beach this past weekend, including right now and tomorrow. So it's like, okay, like regardless, the virus is either gonna spread or it's gonna get better. And right now, the way the valley is, Hidalgo County is already close to 30,000 positive cases as far as ever since this thing started. So I think that's really ridiculous, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? But going forward, I mean, let's hope that we can go to shows by 2021. Because 2020 really, bit the big one. And so it was one of those things where like none of us enjoyed it. We all had somebody, a loved one or somebody affected by this. Myself, and my family contracted the virus, right? So I can,
my uncle just not too long ago passed away from COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tony's uncle also passed away from it as well. And again, I'm lucky to not have lost anyone yet, but I mean, knock on wood, right? Let's hope that nothing happens, right? Looks like we got AR Rosas saying, how's it going? AR Rosas, how's it going, man? Finally, we got people chatting in the stream. What's going on? We've been going on for like an hour and 30 minutes already, right? That's all right. It's a Sunday night, so you know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm sure people are at the beach beaching it up right now. So,
and plus, sorry, I was moving around a lot. Just that when we decided to do ARMBAR, I basically had to charge my phone because I was at 20%, and I didn't want to not do the show. So I was kind of like, I'll just improvise.
I might need to get you like a headset that you can attach to your headphone, Jay, just because there was a little bit of audio quality issues on our end, and I also got some feedback. But I mean, if you have your iPhone headphones that the phone came with, then those would probably work just fine as well.
Yeah, yeah. I probably have them somewhere in my vehicle, my SUV.
Yeah, I think on the next stream I'll test it beforehand. But other than that, guys, again, it was good to be back again for another week, and hopefully we can start streaming weekly again. Looks like we're already starting to do it since last week. We've been starting to stream. So for those of you who follow ARMBAR, again, we really appreciate you guys chiming in, checking out the live stream. Again, we're talking about wrestling here, whether it be WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, and I was gonna say New Japan as well. Of course, Jay covers MMA as well. If you guys are into that,
they both cover MMA.
Yeah, so again, every now and then, sometimes the streams are more lit than other. You know what I mean? Tonight was a slow night for us. So again, I just want to thank you guys for joining in. And anything else before we go tonight, guys?
Wash your hands. Wear a mask.
Wear your mask. Wash your hands.
Not sponsored by Purell, but
Keep
please
6 feet away from each other.
Please use this and continue to wash your hands. Yeah, continue to wash your hands and just continue to be safe. And we'll see you guys soon. Hopefully, maybe after this Wednesday or Thursday, we can do another live stream. So, again, guys, y'all have a great night. Thanks for being here. Stay jazzy, okay?